Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mastering Thought live stream. It's Thursday night and 6:15, and we're all here. And this is a special edition. We're going to start a series where we're going to actually train people how to do moment mindfulness. And you see in the bottom box, you can see Vanessa. We may have somebody else joining us. If not, I'll eliminate the blank box there. In the top middle is Rachelle, who is going to introduce herself, and she has a special announcement at the end of our live stream tonight. And introduce your guest, and then I'll kind of tell you what's going to happen here and how we're going to do this.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark and Vanessa. So excited to be joining. This is my first live YouTube ever. So exciting. This is my friend and colleague and client, Doug Kohler. And Doug is joining us from Utah.
Hi, Doug.
Yes, thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
We're going to have some
Hi,
fun.
Doug.
And Rachelle, um, please introduce yourself and what you do and how you came to be with us.
Awesome. So my name is Rachelle. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I am a medicine woman, plant medicine facilitator, and coach. Uh-oh, can you see me?
Yeah.
There we go. And I came to find your channel when I was just searching for some David Hawkins material, and you came up with this moment mindfulness, and I thought, wow, that sounds interesting. I literally went right into practicing it, and after two or three times, I had this little bit of experience that was pretty startling to me. So then I binge watched about 30 or 40 of your videos
Oh,
over the next 3 and 4 days and started sending them out to my community, which shout out to Holding Ceremony Space on the chat because I know I sent it out to about 200 of my group. But yeah, I just started sending it out to everyone. And then Mark, you so graciously joined me twice on my community Zoom calls and just had a tremendous, actually, I think we had a couple awakenings right in real time at
Really?
one of the
Wow.
that you did, yeah, with Valerie. So really excited to be here, and thank you, Vanessa, for hosting this or co-hosting as well.
We'll have to get Valerie on and find out what happened. I'd like to hear her story. That's
Very
amazing.
good.
Okay, so we may have somebody else join us, but in the meantime, I'm going to get rid of the blank box here and move Vanessa over.
there
And
we go.
let's make Vanessa bigger because she needs to be bigger.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
I love working with Vanessa. We really enjoy this. Now, let me set this up and explain what's going on. If you're listening and you want to ask a question, make a comment, put it in the comments because I got my eye on this other screen over here, and we'll bring you into the conversation. But the purpose behind this is to teach people the exercise moment mindfulness. And moment mindfulness is a radical, new, simple, extremely simple way to have an awakening experience and disidentify from thought. And so we have people at various stages. Is it Dan again?
It's Doug.
Doug. I'm sorry, Doug. I had the first letter right. At least I got that part. So, Doug, you've been barely exposed to this at all. Is that correct?
You know, I'm 24 hours in, but I'm like Vanessa, or I'm like Rochelle. I have listened nonstop for 24 hours. I have
Okay.
gone through a silent period in my life of going away into retreats and silence, and that hasn't filled the hole. And so
Got
I'm
it.
back. I am so ready for what you have.
Good. Okay, so we have people at various stages. Vanessa has been with me for a long time now. For months we've been working together. How would you gauge your exposure to this and where you are in the process, Vanessa?
So I think it's quite interesting that I've been working with you for so long, and I still I still struggle with my awakening, and I think it's because of a lot of different reasonings. Could be my personality type, just the fact that I'm a lion. I don't know. So it's been interesting because I still understand the concept of it, but I'll do the exercise and I understand like the detachment. I guess I just don't feel the detachment of myself, like watching
Okay.
myself have the thought. So that's kind of where I'm at in the process.
Okay. And Rochelle, you explained your progress with it pretty well. You had a bit of a breakthrough right away.
Yes.
And so this is really interesting to me because we have three people who are at various stages in this. And so we're going to start at square one. And I want you to interact with me and ask me any questions you have about the process, because where you are in the process is going to determine the kind of questions you ask, which is very important to the people who are listening live and to the people who are going to be listening to the recording, because it's very rich for people to hear different perspectives on this. And then since I've guided, literally several thousand people through this, I know kind of the answers to what you're going to be asking and can put it in some kind of a frame of reference that makes sense out of it. So for those of you who don't know what moment mindfulness is, it's an exercise that we do that involves the voice in your head that sounds like you talking to you. And so let me guide you. So with the voice in your head is what we call our self-talk, or the narrator in our head, or what's another word for the voice in your head? Anything come to mind?
The ego?
Okay, but what do we call that voice that talks to
Just the
us?
mind chatter, the monkey mind is what
There
I
you
call
go.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Monkey
cool.
mind.
All
Yeah.
right, so now this is very simple. All you do, and if the three of you would do it with me, that would be helpful. All you do is wait for the next thought, and we're not trying to solve a problem. We're not trying to go into deeper life here or anything like that. We're just waiting for the next random, easy, everyday, simple thought. And when the voice in your head speaks and you notice that you're thinking, what happens to the voice in your head? So the
It
voice in your head
stops.
Disappears.
disappears. Rochelle said the same thing. Vanessa, do you notice that when you turn your attention to it, it disappears?
Yeah, I don't think anymore. I'm just, if anything,
Oh,
well, I don't, not that I'm necessarily thinking anymore. I don't really have that thought anymore. I'm actually like trying to
that,
envision myself having that thought.
that's right. So, so now this is very simple. So what happened when you just did that is you switched networks in your brain. There are two networks in the brain. The first network is called the task positive network. That is the network that turns on whenever we're focused or concentrating. So when you're watching your favorite TV show, you're using the task positive network. The network that produces the voice in your head is called the default mode network, which is it should be very familiar to plant medicine people, because that's the network that gets depressed when you take plant medicine. And that's why people have spiritual experiences when they do mushrooms or whatever it is. So those two networks are negatively correlated. So you literally cannot observe and think at the same time. So when you observe the voice in your head, that turns on the task positive network, which immediately turns off the default mode network. Now I say turned off. They don't actually turn off, but the activity dramatically decreases. For all intent and purposes, it turns off. Because when you turn your attention to the voice in your head, it shuts it off, goes away. And that's what all three of you experienced. Okay, so why is this important? The reason this is important is because the more you do this exercise, the more it becomes very obvious that the voice in your head is not who you are. And that leads to a process called disidentification. So what happens when the voice in your head starts to speak, it no longer feels like you, it no longer sounds like you, it has your tone and timbre and everything, but you no longer believe it's you. And
So,
let me
Mark,
make,
can I ask you? I
yeah,
have, in everything I've listened to in the last 24 hours, I keep asking myself, then who is that voice? If it's not really me, What is that voice?
So when you have an itch, you scratch.
Okay.
What the brain is, this gigantic survival machine, and having a constant conversation in our head is a survival mechanism. So we're constantly preparing ourselves for the next moment to survive. And so because we know language, we learn from a very early age that when we talk to ourselves, it alters our state to a certain degree. And so we just become in the habit of talking to ourselves. It really serves no purpose other than to prepare us for the next moment. But it never works, of course. Did
So,
that
Mark,
answer your question?
would it be safe to say it's a lower part of me? It's not my higher self. It's a very low, basic, fundamental, historical part of me. Would that be fair?
That's very fair.
Okay.
The voice in your head is a function of the limbic system, which is fight or flight. That's where survival starts. And then the limbic system recruits higher and higher levels of the brain, so gradually we begin to talk to ourselves. But the level of the brain that's observing all of this is higher than everything. And so imagine what we've done. We have mistaken ourselves to be the voice in our heads, when in fact that's not the highest part of the brain. So we're leaving the really executive function on the shelf, believing that this voice is the best of us, and it's not.
I like that. We're leaving the monkey mind alone and we're going to a divine self to listen.
I don't even want to give it to the quality of a divine self. We think it's divine because we don't ever experience it. But no, it opens the doorway to a divine self, but we're just experiencing actually who we really are.
Okay.
And we're not making a mistake anymore about who we are. Because we all believe, until somebody comes along and says otherwise, we all believe that dialogue in our head is who we are. And it prevents us from experiencing who we really are and experiencing, like you said, the divine self or the divinity of each moment. Even in Christian terms, in 2 Corinthians 10:6, Paul says, hold in captivity every thought and every high thing that is exalted itself against the Lord. So basically, we're in love with our thinking. And that's the problem. Why are we in love with our thinking? Because when the default mode network speaks, it has a sense of self that comes with it, so it feels like me. And so when that voice speaks, we think it's me. Yeah. What moment mindfulness does is it breaks the spell of that feeling of me that goes with the voice, and we realize, wait a minute, that's not actually who I am. Yeah. And the awakening that everybody has wanted to experience in all kinds of spiritual practices happens very suddenly when you realize that voice is not who you are. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And now all the divine things suddenly become available to us, because there's two incompatible things: survival and ascension. As long as we're serving survival, we can never ascend. Can't happen. Okay? Any comments or questions, put them in the comments. We'll respond to them. So the basic practice of moment mindfulness, and this is very counterintuitive, is 3 or 4 times a day, just catch yourself thinking ordinary, simple, non-emotional, non-problematic thoughts. And every time you do, the voice will go away. You stop, You go about your business, a little while later, you do it again. And within days, not weeks, but days, the awakening starts and your perspective changes and you start seeing
Yeah.
things that were there all along, but you never could see them before.
And I just wanted to provide a reminder to our viewers too that the point of moment mindfulness is not to completely stop the thoughts because we're human, we're going to continue
Exactly.
having thoughts. It is that we're learning to disidentify ourselves from those thoughts so that we don't become entangled. Because sometimes when we'll hear that folks are doing this exercise and it's like, well, my thoughts haven't stopped. Well, that wasn't the goal. You missed the point. The point is to disidentify and acknowledge that you are not your thoughts and your thoughts are not you. And that's why there's thought masters, where we teach you to master your thoughts before your thoughts become a master of you.
So what Vanessa's saying is extremely important because what hangs people up is they believe that what we're doing is we are trying to solve a problem. We're not trying to solve a problem. We're trying to learn that the voice in our head is not who we are, because the voice in our head is what's causing all the problems. See, life is perfect unless you think about it. Thank you, Cook. Cookie Technique, thanks so much for being and loving this. We appreciate it. So
Hi, Mitzi.
So this, what this practice does is it does what every other practice wants to do but can't do, because meditation, mindfulness, all this other kind of stuff, they're all fantastic, but it doesn't directly address the problem of
Yes.
identifying with thought. Because as soon as you're done meditating, you go back to identifying with thought. And the problem is the thoughts come from, as Doug was saying, come from a very primitive part of the brain that has its own agenda, and it's not the one we want for personal spiritual growth at all. Okay, so question often comes, why do we not do this on problem thoughts? Very simple, because problem thoughts require, in order for there to be a problem, there has to be fight or flight has to be activated. Okay, well, once fight or flight has been activated, the entire brain gets hijacked. So there's no self-awareness. There's no reason to practice this at all, because the brain has been hijacked because we think we're trying to survive an attack. And so the practice of disidentification will never happen if you work on problem thoughts. And that's the reason. It makes perfect sense when you think about it. Any comments or questions about that? I battle this all day long with people. They want to solve the problem. They don't want to listen to the instructions. They want to solve the problem.
And I was one of those. I told Mark I want to be an A+ student. So I was like, I was working on this with the toughest things my first couple of weeks. And he goes, no, it's not the negative thoughts and the hard thoughts that you want to work with. He goes, it's the little small ones, like go get milk at the store.
Right.
Don't forget to get gas. Those are the ones that are the most dangerous. And that just completely woke me up. And then I was like, oh, I see, because I really think that that's me.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't know how to pronounce this. How would we say Viadu? If we constantly observe our thoughts trying to achieve detachment, doesn't it prevent us from being functional in daily practical activities?
Okay.
That is a fantastic question. There's two really
Yes.
important things about that. Let me and by the way, Vaidu, I know you asked me a question online and I need to get into the comments and answer it. So first of all, we never want to try to achieve anything. Trying to achieve detachment brings the ego in, and now we're trying to use willpower to try to achieve something, and that takes the whole thing off the train tracks. So we're doing, and we're not, and the other thing is we're not constantly observing our thoughts. We only do this exercise 3 or 4 times a day. So this is not a project. Again, that's the ego and willpower trying to turn it into a project. So we're just very casually noticing that we're thinking with no real purpose in mind other than just to follow the instructions. Hi, Jet, how are you? So let me get back to this question. I'll get back to your comment in a second, Jet. So he says, doesn't it prevent us from being functional in daily practical activities? And the answer is no. The illusion is that we need verbal instructions from our brain to do anything. So when this is over, I'm going to get up out of my chair, right? Do I need to tell myself to get out of the chair? No. No, as a matter of fact, if you start paying very close attention, you'll realize that you're doing stuff all the time without any awareness that you've decided to do anything. So you get up out of the chair and you'd be halfway across the room before you realize there was no sense of agency at all. You just got up out of the chair. So there was no self, there was no me that instructed you to get out of the chair. So no, it does not prevent, being aware, being self-aware, being metacognitive does not require us to put aside the functional practice of daily living at all. Because all of that's happening non-verbally anyway. Right? So we don't say, oh, I'm thirsty, I need a drink of water. Okay, that's not what we do. We just have a drink of water. Now, if I'm aware, I can be aware that I'm doing this and do the function of drinking the water at the same time. So we're perfectly capable of, practicing self-awareness and living our daily lives. It's an illusion that the voice in our head has something to contribute to this because it has absolutely nothing to contribute to it at all. So let's see what Jet says. There is nothing in this world that can hurt you as much as your thoughts. Absolutely. There's nothing in this world that can heal you as much as your thoughts. I heard this recently. Does it apply here? I would disagree with the second sentence. I don't believe your thoughts can heal you at all, but they can certainly hurt you. Self-awareness can heal you. Awareness, being free from thought, is healing. Questions, comments? Those were excellent.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if in that comment of like thoughts healing you would mean that like if one were to have thoughts that are positive, like having a better self-image. Like I'm wondering if that's what that means, like having different thoughts would heal you.
So my interpretation of this is that verbal thought cannot heal you. Realization heals you. Telling yourself
Okay.
something in your head is not going to heal you. But realizing something is going to heal you. For instance, if you say something to me and I take it as personally insulting, if I realize that is triggering something with my mother from my childhood, that's healing. But I'm not going to heal myself if I stand and say, oh, that must be about my mother, No, there has to be this present moment realization that happens, and when we connect the dots, the healing starts to take place.
So, Mark, would that be the same with affirmations, like the Louise Hay affirmations and things like that? Because I love affirmations. I do affirmations.
Well,
so you're saying there's no value in that?
I don't think there's any value as long as you're not addressing what is underneath the affirmations.
Okay.
See, affirmations look, if you come from a violent alcoholic family, and you have affirmation that everything is okay, and you've never addressed the residual effects of what happened to you, the affirmation is going to give you this illusion that something positive is happening, and it's almost a way of spiritual bypassing because you're going to ignore the real issues. I want a better, I deserve a better relationship, and I'm going to have a better relationship. And what I'm doing is I'm also absolving myself of the responsibility of seeing what I did in the last relationship. Now, the only reason I'm saying this is I've been a therapist for 30 years and I know better. So I need to take that person into that last relationship and let's see what that was all about. And then when you take responsibility and you realize what was going on there, now you can have a better relationship. The affirmation's not going to give it to you. This is who I am, folks. I'm sorry. I'm direct. I apologize.
That's what I love about you the most. In fact, I tell all my clients, okay, so guess what? It's coming to you straight.
Actually, yeah, I've never really had a client who was offended by this approach. They really want to hear the truth.
And it's coming from love. You speak from the heart.
Absolutely. It's coming from a lot of pain, the real pain. So the goal here with everybody is now, what do we need to do for the three of you and for anybody who's listening to take this exercise and actually do it? See, this is the big problem that I have with people is, oh yeah, I get it. Okay, it all makes sense. Yeah, I get it. And then the session's over and by the time they've walked out of the room, they've forgotten the whole thing and they just don't do the exercise. And see, I've been training people to do this for years, and I can tell the next time we get together, it's been a difficult week and blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, well, did you take a shower? Well, I took a shower. I said, well, you could have done the exercise in the shower. What prevented you from doing it? So you have a practice here. Can you take the action? 2 or 3 times a day, can you just notice the voice in your head and watch it go away? Any questions on this at all? Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the 3 of you back next week, Doug included, and let's find out what the progress is. What happened? Did you do it? How did you do it? What did you discover when you did it? What happened?
Mark, I'd be honored to come back next week, but I've got to ask you questions because I've listened to so many of your videos. And some people, there's an old Buddhist Zen saying that says, when's the best time to plant a tree? 30 years ago and today. I wish I would have got enlightened when you and Tolly got enlightened. So it's like, is there keys to this? Is there certain steps that accelerate this, that really work? These people that are waking up in 1 or 2 days, are they doing something that people that wake up months later are not doing?
Yeah, they're ready. They're ready to hear it.
Okay.
I mean, I've literally had people in session, and when I say the voice in their head is not you, and I prove it to them, they wake up. So everybody has their own process. But the key is to actually believe that this might work and to do the exercise. And like you're doing, get on the site, watch the videos over and over until this becomes very comfortable and you kind of know where this goes. And so you're willing to buy into the process. And don't build an altar in the corner. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You're in the shower and you think, oh, I need to get to work 5 minutes early. And then you realize, oh, I'm talking in my head. The instant you notice it, it goes away. Great, I did it. 2 hours later, you're on the way to work. You see a dog, you say, I wonder if that's a border collie. Oh, there's that voice in my head talking again. So you're just reminding yourself throughout the day just to catch yourself thinking simple thoughts And I'm telling you, if you do that within days, you'll start noticing changes. Not weeks, not months, not at the retreat. You'll notice it in your real life. This consciousness that we are, this God presence that is inside of us, is not deep. It's right here. It's right here. We don't have to go search for it. It's right here. Yes, this is the practice of self-inquiry taught by Ramana Maharshi. Thank you.
So, Dr. Mark, one more question. I just know who I am, and I want to be. If a 100-yard race is good, a marathon's better. Do you try to limit yourself to that 3, 6, 8 times a day, or every time it comes to mind? Can you do this 30 times a day if it comes to mind that often?
Yeah, you can, but you're not going to win a gold star.
Okay.
And if you're trying to win a gold star by doing it 30 times, that's not going to work either, because now it's an ego project and you're trying to accomplish something, and you're concentrating on results instead of just doing the practice and letting the change happen from within without your effort.
Okay.
So if you know where that boundary is, you're fine. If you don't cross the boundary, great. Okay, here's another question. Is it true that our thoughts have levels? You pause once with observing and it goes away, and then you see that behind this thought is a true. No, I don't. I love that. Here's the problem that this reminds me of. So behind the thought, you see there's a tree of thoughts. What you don't see is you had to climb a tree to see all the other trees. You're already clinging to a tree. So verbal thought does not have levels. The voice in your head that's saying, I want ice cream, is the same voice that's deluding you when you say, I want to be enlightened. There's no levels there. If you think that voice is you, then you've been seduced into believing something that's not true. So that's my answer to that is, now, if we were in a room having a discussion, I might realize, okay, that this question, I'm not kind of getting it right and so forth, but I really believe the more complicated you try to make this, the longer the process becomes. Jet says, for me, it's catching myself until it becomes instinctual, God willing. Actually, it does become instinctual. The more you do this, the more easy it becomes, and you just do it. Mm-hmm. And then when you start disidentifying, that voice comes up and you notice it, and you're just used to doing that and watching it go away, and pretty soon it's like, yeah, that guy's trying to sell me solar. He keeps knocking on my door. I'm not going to open the door. No, thank you. Did that answer your question? Now, I'm not trying to criticize the question. I'm just saying, from my point of view, okay, this won't work. I couldn't sleep in the wee hours, and all I could do was think, don't think, don't think, don't think. Yeah, you can't tell yourself not to think, because you're going to think in order to tell yourself not to think. So it's a circular firing squad. It's like if I told you, don't think I can't sleep. That'll help you go to sleep. No. Any more questions? This is great. And a lot of these questions, like this question here, this is an excellent question. But when you start doing the practice and it starts dawning on you what this is really all about, a lot of these questions just go away because it becomes very obvious
Yeah.
what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
Very obvious. One of the first things people tell me when they start this is they were not aware of how noisy their head was.
Mm.
So can you imagine humankind? We have a noisy head we're not even aware of. So we have this running commentary, and if we're not aware of it, our lives become the running commentary. It controls us. So do this practice 2 or 3 times a day. And, you three, let's check in next week. And I know, Vanessa, for somebody your age, not criticizing your age, but you're so immersed in life and there's so much vitality and so much energy, to do anything like this, I know it's a big ask, because there's so much
Thank you for
going
taking that
on.
into account.
It's such an adventure, and you're just
Yeah.
starting out in a new level of your life, and so I understand this can be, like, why do I want to do that? I want to be with my friends, or whatever. So
Well, I will
So
say, I
Mark,
guess
I've
for
got
me, what's different is that I mean, I take care of my grandparents for my job, and so there's a lot of moments where there's pause. Like I get to just
okay,
think, and so sometimes I will engage in metacognition, where it's like, okay, oh, that thought just passed by. Okay, like I like even this today, like for example, I was cleaning from 10 to 4. And like right now, I'm just realizing, wow, I engaged in a lot of different thought. And there were a few moments where I engaged in the moment mindfulness where it was, oh,
mm-hmm,
okay, just to kind of let that one go.
Mm.
Didn't keep
mm-hmm,
overthinking it. Why am I having that thought? Oh my goodness, I'm such a bad person. It's like, oh,
right.
it is what it is. Okay, let's go.
You
So
just
if
put
anything, yeah, go ahead.
you just put your finger on the biggest challenge with this, because you have to remind yourself to do it, because you do it when there's not a big emotion going on. So
Yeah.
Right.
that's the big challenge.
Yeah. And maybe that's an encouragement too to our viewers where um maybe if you're engaging in a, I guess, somewhat boring, not the most fun task, that might help because I know for me, I mean, but I love cleaning, so it's not exactly boring. But like something that is kind of passive. And I think maybe if we are doing passive activities, this is a perfect
Exactly.
time to be able to do it. Maybe not when you're driving in LA traffic. Yeah, you're definitely going to have a lot of thoughts there and a lot of things that are coming out of your mouth.
Right.
But it's maybe if it's something that's more passive so that you can practice this exercise and there not be so much commotion going on around you either. So I feel like that's also really helpful.
And that's a good point. It reminds me, don't do this when you're with other people. Just
Yeah.
do it when you're alone and it's just you and the voice in your
Yeah.
head. Doug, you started to ask a question.
Tell me, Mark, there's a lot of similarities between this and meditation. A good meditation, I'm just seeing thoughts come through and I'm releasing them. I watch them come through and release them. But in
Mm-hmm.
your videos, you've made it pretty clear this is not a meditation. So kind of what's the difference, and is it still okay to have a meditation program?
Well, the big difference is when you meditate, let's say you're doing Vipassana meditation, you're noticing the thoughts, and they're going away, but the emphasis is not on disidentification in your regular normal walk of life. That's the problem. I've had meditators who've been meditating for 20 years come to me, and they do this exercise for 2 or 3 weeks, and all of a sudden they have this awakening, which is what they wanted from the meditation the whole time. And I will ask them, did your teacher ever tell you the voice in your head is not who you are? And they'll say no. And without that key concept, there's a lot of benefits to meditation, but unless you're understanding that the activity of the mind, the mental activity, is not who you are, I don't think it leads to where we want to go.
I can see that. Thank you.
So this question is, what is relation mindfulness with psychedelics? I think you're asking what is the relationship between mindfulness and psychedelics. Could you clarify that so I understand completely? And I'm going to let Rachelle chime in on this. Go ahead, Rachelle. What was your first instinct when you saw that question?
I think that's why I was so attracted to what you were saying, because if you ever look at doctors or therapists, sometimes they downplay the use of plant medicine or psychedelics, but you immediately had the correlation of psychedelics and the default mode network. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are seeking this type of work, whether it's therapeutic, whether it's recreational or ceremonial. You get an experience where that default mode network can completely turn off. So
Right,
you are no longer thinking, and you have this present experience of just endless presence, no time.
right, right.
Holding ceremony, people will sit there and they'll like, wait, how long has it been? They have no concept of time because all they are in is this ever present mode of just being present.
The only thing
It's,
that experiences time is the separate self.
mm,
And
yes,
the separate self is a function of the
yes,
default mode network and the whole ego complex that's in our brains.
exactly.
And the other thing, let me just say about plant medicine, and you're far more an expert than I at this because I know you do this. You need to have a frame of reference.
Hmm.
When you're going to engage in that, it has to have a structure built around it.
Yes,
And
yes,
they're finding this in the research at Johns Hopkins and so forth that setting the expectations and the environment and the proper music
yes,
and everything, it just has an enormous effect on how it works and why it works.
absolutely. We call that in this world having a container and set and
Exactly.
setting. And when you have that container and framework and trained facilitators or shamans or medicine people that are there to support that container, that's when you have these true awakenings and these real life, real time experiences
Right.
versus getting freaked out for the next 4 to 6 hours on your own because you're at a festival or a rave.
Exactly. Exactly. So while we're on the topic, I just want to bring this up. Can you describe the course you're going to do and promote
Yes.
it a little bit here?
Thank you, Dr. Mark, so much. So basically what Dr. Mark is pointing to is, and this is why one of the reasons I was so attracted to this is what we really practice at our retreats. And it allows you an experience of what it is we are actually speaking of right now, this stillness of present moment. And when you start to stay in this present moment for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, you start to realize that's who you really are.
Right.
And it just becomes like Mark described, you have this oneness. And you're like, wait a minute, this is who I am. It's the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling. Like I've been here before. I recognize this. So traditionally, the classic psychedelics, most of them turn off that default mode network. And for me, this is one of the easiest ways to truly be able to crush the ego is don't believe in it anymore.
Uh,
So it's not about like this isn't about escaping. This isn't about bypassing, because I know a lot of people have had that experience in plant medicine, or they know of someone that's done ayahuasca 30 times and they're still working, dealing with the same thing. But this is about returning to the truth of who we are. And for people that truly that are serious about practicing it right now. And I just want to say that the group that I work with, the facilitators, and the amazing retreat hosts, we consider ourselves in a new lane of work. It's a sacred modern path, and it's not necessarily therapy. It's not going to the jungles of Peru or Colombia, which are all beautiful, but it's also not recreational. And it's not being at a festival, but this is true guided support with intention, with expertise, and with a lot of love. The setting is very curated and it's designed for people to safely explore the trueness of who they are in this the explore their true consciousness. And I want to say one thing is that, or one more is that it's like when we ever hear the buffalo. Now, I don't know this is true, but I've heard this before. That buffalo, when the storm is coming, they don't run away from the storm. They actually run right into it. So it helps them move through it faster. That's what some of these beautiful plants will do is they bring these things up for us so that we can move directly through it and through that discomfort. And on the other side of that is a lot of freedom for most people. And I think one of the most famous psychologists or psychotherapists, Carl Jung, he said, until you make the unconscious or your subconscious conscious, that it will control you. And we just call it
That's
fate
it.
or we call it an act of God. And
So,
one of the
so
most famous though therapists, I want to quote you, Dr. Mark says, real clarity doesn't come from solving the problem, but it comes from resonating and aligning with truth, and that requires a level of radical honesty that you have to be ready for.
so,
I've taken that quote.
but the one thing you're not doing here is you're not promoting your retreat. It's four
Oh,
days. It's 4 days. It's
okay.
going to be in Temecula in an absolutely beautiful setting. If you've never been to Temecula, it's a beautiful place. And how can they contact you to get more information about it?
Thank you so much. Yes, I would love to put
I'm here
my
to help.
email. Oh my God, it's like preaching to the choir. This is a group that already wants to do it. I would love to put my information in the bio, if you would, Mark, and then I can leave my website along with
Okay.
my email. Please contact me. We're accepting applications right now, and we still have a few spaces. And Mark is right. Temecula, 70, 80 degrees. There's a pool. There's a Tesmacal. We're going to have some beautiful work outside along
Surrounded by
with some.
wineries.
So you can't drink before, but you
So,
can drink after.
Rachelle, text me your information. I'll put it in the
Of
description
course.
of the video,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
you know, hopefully you'll get some business from this because you're you're absolutely beautiful, and what you're doing is very important. So,
Thank you so much.
all right, we're out of time. We're actually over time. I'll take one or two more questions. We got this comment. I understand. Okay. And again, I owe you a response to one of your comments on one of our videos, and I will do that. Any other questions or comments from the three of you? I hope all three of you are back next week because I want to measure your
Yes.
progress and hear what happened when you did the exercise, which means you're on the spot now. You got to do the exercise, okay?
Love the accountability, Mark.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm all about. Anything else before we pull the plug? This has been a real interesting, very pleasurable, yeah, very fascinating.
So
Vanessa?
I just wanted to put a little plug for our new Facebook group because we have now migrated from Circle to Facebook, and it's
Nice.
going to be a private group. So for those of you that are still seeking community and just talking about these issues on a platform where you get to speak with others that are going through the same process, whether it be awakening, understanding the lion unicorn model, or understanding the ego death, like that's what we're going to be talking about on there. It's a much more simple platform for everyone to follow. We're going to start developing some discussion questions just to get that community going, but we'd be so happy to have you. And I know Mark will link that in the bio. But
I will.
yeah, that's a new thing that we have going on.
Very good. That's it, folks.
So excited to
Uh,
join.
would
Yay.
love to hear my thoughts on IFS. IFS is what?
Internal
Internal family
family
systems.
systems.
Oh, Richard Swartz. I've talked to Richard Swartz. I'm very familiar with IFS.
Oh,
And yeah, send me a comment or an email and tell me more about that because we can do a video on that. IFS, I like IFS. Parent, adult, child
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah.
I love the engagement today. And I just wanted to thank you both so much for your time. So happy that you guys are here. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you
Well,
for
I'm
welcoming
honored.
us. This
Thank
feels
you.
great. Yeah, I really
And I
All
want to
right.
say
appreciate it.
one tiny thing about Rochelle's retreat. I have been to that retreat, and it is the safest place in this whole world to do that self discovery and to go within. And the people and the set and setting make it so safe and secure. I highly recommend her retreat.
What a plug.
Thank you, Doc.
Awesome.
Love
All right, you guys,
that.
we will see you next Thursday at 6:15. Please like and subscribe, give us your comments, and we'll keep the ball rolling until next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you both.